They say you can't live two lives at once, but the avoidant does. They love you quietly, deeply, in ways you'll never fully see. And at the same time, they protect themselves relentlessly, instinctively, almost against their own will. This is their double life. A life where love and fear sleep in the same bed, where affection is genuine, but distance is constant, where they give you pieces of themselves, while hiding the rest behind walls you cannot climb. You feel their love, but you also feel the absence, the silence, the withdrawals, and it leaves you wondering, how can someone love you and avoid you at the same time? How can they want closeness, yet run from the very intimacy they long for? The answer lies in their survival system. Because for the avoidant, loving you is real, but so is the fear of losing themselves in that love. The mask they wear, love behind emotional armor. On the surface, the avoidant can look detached, calm, unbothered, even cold. But this isn't the full picture. It's a mask, a carefully constructed emotional armor designed to hide their vulnerability. Behind it lives someone who cares more than they let on. Someone who feels love but is terrified of showing it. Someone who believes that if they reveal too much, they'll lose control. This mask is their protection. It keeps the world from seeing the parts of them they don't trust anyone with. It hides their longing for connection, their buried need for comfort, their quiet craving for safety in another human being. And yet, despite the mask, their love leaks through. It's in the subtle gestures, the way they notice the small details, the way they show up in practical ways instead of emotional ones, the way they stand beside you when words fail them. To the untrained eye, it might look like indifference, but to you, the one who knows them best, you recognize it as love in disguise. Still, the mask creates distance, because while they're giving you something, they're also withholding so much more. They may laugh with you, but never cry with you. They may share stories, but never their deepest fears. They may let you close, but never all the way in. This contradiction is exhausting for you and for them, because love wants to flow freely, but fear builds dams. And every time their love rises, their fear builds the walls higher. It's not that they don't love you. It's that they've learned love is dangerous. Love exposes. Love requires surrender. And surrender feels like annihilation to a heart that grew up believing safety meant self-reliance. So, the avoidant learns to live a double life. One where they love behind armor and hope you can feel it, even if they can't bring themselves to fully show it. Intimacy at arm's length. Why closeness feels threatening. For most people, intimacy feels like home. It feels like safety. It feels like belonging. But for the avoidant, intimacy is not just closeness. It's exposure. It's risk. It's a reminder of a time when closeness hurt, when vulnerability was met not with comfort, but with disappointment. That history lives in their nervous system. And so, what should feel safe doesn't. What should feel comforting triggers alarms inside them. When you reach for them with open arms, their body sometimes recoils before their mind even understands why. When you tell them you need more, their chest tightens, their breath shortens. Their instinct is to withdraw. To them, closeness is dangerous, not because of you, but because of what closeness meant long ago. It meant unpredictability. It meant a parent who wasn't consistent. It meant emotions too big for anyone to hold. It meant shame for needing what they were told they shouldn't need. And so now, as adults, they've carried that wiring into their relationships. They want to love. They want to be loved. But the moment intimacy gets too close, too real, too consuming, something inside of them whispers, "This is dangerous. Back away." So they pull back. They create space. They withdraw into silence, into work, into distractions, into themselves. It isn't because they've stopped loving you. It isn't because they don't want you. It's because intimacy touches the very wound they've spent their life protecting. Think of it like standing too close to fire. It warms you at first, but the closer you get, the more your skin starts to burn. That's how intimacy feels for the avoidant. Not because love itself is painful, but because love exposes the rawest, most unhealed part of them. This is why they live at arm's length. Close enough to love you, but far enough to feel safe. Close enough to let you in, but not so close that they lose themselves. This is the delicate balance they try to keep, a balance that leaves you confused, because one moment they're with you, present, connected, even tender, and the next, they're gone, retreated into their shell, leaving you to wonder what happened. What happened is that intimacy crossed the threshold. What happened is that love felt too real. What happened is that their survival instincts overpowered their desire for closeness. It feels like rejection to you, but to them, it feels like self-preservation. And that's the painful paradox. Because every time they protect themselves from closeness, they also lose pieces of the intimacy they secretly crave. They end up living in the in-between, never fully alone, never fully together, always balancing the tightrope of connection and distance. And this is what makes their double life so draining. They want you, but they also want to protect themselves from you. They long for intimacy, but they're terrified of what it awakens inside them. So they keep you close, but not too close. Loved, but at a distance. Connected, but never fully. And while you're left questioning their feelings, the truth is, they're questioning themselves too. The secret ways they show love while staying guarded. Avoidants are often misunderstood. From the outside, their love can look cold, detached, even uncaring. But if you know where to look, you'll see the quiet, hidden ways they express what they can't say out loud. They may not pour their heart out in words. They may not shower you with constant affection, but their love speaks in subtler, softer languages. It shows up in the way they fix something that's broken without being asked, in the way they make sure you get home safe, in the way they buy you something small, not flashy, but thoughtful, something that shows they noticed, they remembered, they cared. For the avoidant, love often lives in action more than in words, because words feel exposing, words feel dangerous, words open the door to vulnerability, and vulnerability is the very thing they fear. So instead, they build their language of love around what feels safer, practical, grounded, subtle. It's not that they don't feel deeply. It's that their feelings overwhelm them when spoken out loud. So they let their hands do what their heart struggles to say. Cooking for you, driving you somewhere, helping with something stressful, checking in quietly when you least expect it. These are the gestures that tell you, I see you, I care for you, I love you, even if I can't say it the way you want me to. And yet, this hidden love is part of their double life. Because while they give in these subtle ways, they also pull back when emotions rise too high. They'll fix the light bulb, but they may not be able to sit with you when you cry. They'll plan the logistics, but not always hold space for the rawness of your feelings. To you, that gap feels like indifference, like they're not really invested. But in their inner world, it's the opposite. They're invested, so much so that the depth of it terrifies them. That's why they show love in ways that feel safe. Because safe love doesn't overwhelm them. Safe love doesn't strip their defenses. Safe love lets them stay present without drowning in their own fear. But here's the bittersweet truth. Just because their love doesn't always look like yours, doesn't mean it's not there. The avoidant often loves deeply, sometimes more deeply than they even admit to themselves. They just hide it in corners. They bury it beneath practicality. They tuck it into the folds of their actions, hoping you'll notice without them having to risk exposure. And that's the paradox again. They love you in secret ways, while guarding themselves against the very intimacy their love could create. It's like they're whispering love through closed doors. You can hear it faintly. You can feel it in the room, but the door never quite opens all the way. This is why being with an avoidant can feel confusing. You sense the love, but you also sense the wall. You feel the connection, but you also feel the distance. You see the gestures, but you miss the words. Their love is not absent. It's hidden, not gone, just disguised. Not cold, just protected. And the deeper irony is this: the more they love you, the more they may hide it, because love makes them vulnerable. And vulnerability is the very thing they've been trained to fear. So when an avoidant cares for you quietly, that is love. When they show up for you in practical ways, that is love. When they remember the smallest details, that is love. It may not always look like the movie version. It may not always come wrapped in words or passion, but it is love, disguised, restrained, and carried in secret. The cost of living a double life. When love and fear collide, there is always a cost to splitting yourself in two. And for the avoidant, the double life of love and fear isn't just exhausting. It's quietly destructive. On the surface, they manage. They can show up for you in small, careful ways. They can keep the walls high enough to feel safe. They can convince themselves that this balance works. But deep down, something begins to break. Because love, by its very nature, longs to be whole. It longs to be spoken. It longs to be shared in its fullness. And when you suppress it, when you smother it with fear, it doesn't just go away. It begins to ache. It begins to turn against you. This is why so many avoidants live with an invisible heaviness. They are torn between two worlds: the world where they deeply care for you, and the world where they deeply fear you. And living in both at once is a kind of emotional purgatory. They never let themselves fully land in love, but they also can't fully detach. So they hover, half in, half out, one foot on the gas, the other on the brake. To you, this looks like mixed signals: hot and cold, present and absent, tender one moment, withdrawn the next. But inside them, it's a war, because every time they let themselves get closer, a voice whispers, "This is dangerous. You'll lose yourself. You'll get hurt." And every time they pull away, another voice whispers, "You're going to lose them. They're slipping away. They won't wait forever." That inner tug of war leaves them restless, conflicted, exhausted, and the cost doesn't end there. When they suppress love to protect themselves, they also suppress joy. They suppress connection. They suppress the very experiences that make relationships fulfilling. Think about it. You can't selectively numb your feelings. If you block out vulnerability to avoid pain, you also block out intimacy, passion, and closeness. The very things they want but can't seem to allow. That's why so many avoidants feel secretly lonely, even inside relationships. It's why they often describe feeling misunderstood or never fully seen. Because in truth, they're not fully letting themselves be seen. They're showing fragments of love, never the whole picture. And that guardedness comes at a cost to you, too, because you feel the divide. You feel the push and pull. You sense the love, but you also sense the wall. You know there's more beneath the surface, but you can't quite reach it. This dynamic creates a quiet grief in relationships with avoidance. Not because they don't care, but because they do, and it never fully comes to the surface. And here lies the cruel paradox. Their very efforts to protect themselves from pain often create the very pain they fear. They fear abandonment, yet their distance can push people away. They fear rejection, yet their silence can feel like rejection to the one who loves them. They fear losing control, yet the cost of control is losing intimacy. The double life gives them the illusion of safety, but it also robs them of the love they secretly crave. And it's not only relationships that pay the price. The avoidant themselves does, too. Because living with unspoken love creates regret. Living with hidden fear creates anxiety. Living in half measures creates emptiness. They may never say it out loud, but avoidants often carry a private sense of what if? What if I had let myself open up? What if I hadn't pulled away? What if I had trusted just a little more? Those questions haunt them in quiet moments. They replay the connections they sabotaged, the intimacy they avoided, the closeness they pushed away, all because fear was louder than love. And the cost of that double life is this: they never get to live love fully. Not with you, not with themselves, not with anyone. It's like constantly breathing half breaths. You survive, but you never feel fully alive. And that's the tragedy of the avoidance double life. They think it keeps them safe, but what it really does is keep them alone, breaking free. What it takes to love without the double life. The truth is, the avoidant double life doesn't have to last forever. But breaking free from it requires something most avoidants have spent their whole life avoiding: real vulnerability. It's not about forcing themselves to be less independent. It's not about erasing the need for space. It's about learning how to stay present in love, even when fear rises in their chest. Because fear will always whisper. It will whisper that closeness is dangerous. It will whisper that you'll get hurt. It will whisper that control is safer than connection. But love whispers, too. And if the avoidant is willing to lean into that voice, to risk being seen, to risk being known, everything begins to change. Breaking free starts with self-awareness, recognizing the patterns, noticing the push and pull before it takes over, seeing when fear is driving the wheel instead of love. It requires courage to sit with the discomfort of intimacy without immediately pulling away, to let the heart race, to let the body want to run, but to stay. And it requires learning to trust that closeness doesn't equal loss. That vulnerability isn't the same as weakness. That letting someone in doesn't mean you'll disappear. For many avoidants, this healing isn't easy. It takes time. It takes patience. And often, it takes a safe relationship where love isn't used as a weapon, but offered as an invitation. Because at the core, avoidants don't reject love. They reject the fear of losing themselves in it. And when they begin to see that love can hold both intimacy and independence, both closeness and freedom, they no longer have to live divided. For the person who loves an avoidant, this doesn't mean carrying all the weight. It doesn't mean proving your worth over and over again. It means holding your ground, loving without chasing, inviting without demanding, showing them, through consistency, that intimacy doesn't have to equal danger. When the avoidant begins to internalize this, something powerful happens. The double life dissolves. They no longer need to hide their love behind a wall. They no longer need to protect themselves from the very thing they long for. They no longer need to sabotage the bond, to feel in control. Instead, they can begin to love in wholeness. Love without retreating. Love without disguising. Love without fear as the final word. And when that happens, when an avoidant steps into love fully, you see the truth that was buried all along. Their love was never small. It was only hidden. It was only guarded. It was only waiting for safety to let it breathe. This is the beauty of breaking free. It's not about turning avoidance into someone they're not. It's about allowing them to live love without halves, to show up without masks, to experience intimacy without constantly running from it. Because deep down, every avoidant longs for the same thing you do: to be seen, to be loved, to be chosen, without fear deciding the terms. And when they finally allow themselves to step into that, love stops being a double life. It becomes the only life. If this spoke to you, remember this: healing avoidant patterns takes time, but every insight brings you closer to love that feels whole. If you found value here, consider subscribing, sharing this with someone who needs it, and leaving your reflections below. Your story might be the one that helps someone else feel less alone.